Brilliance Audio presents Truth or Dare You by Elizabeth Hayley, performed by Samantha Martin and Eric London. Sophia. Despite it taking a while to decide that I wanted, or maybe needed, to see Drew, it took me no time at all to hustle my ass to the hospital once I'd made up my mind. I borrowed my mom's Lexus under the guise of having to check in at the sorority house, something I would actually do once I saw that Drew was in one piece so I could put him behind me for good. I pulled the visor down and checked my makeup. It couldn't hurt to remind him of what he'd given up. A girl had a right to be a little superficial in times like this. Satisfied with what I saw, I flipped the visor closed, grabbed my purse, and exited the vehicle. The double beep of the lock mechanism echoed in the cavernous garage, as did the click of my heels against the pavement as I approached the elevator. The doors slid open, and I stepped inside. When the doors opened again, I was in a bustling lobby. It took me a second to get my bearings and locate the main desk. Even though I'd come here the night of Drew's accident, that entire night was a blur. Carter had told me Drew's room number, but the hospital was massive, and the last thing I wanted was to get lost in here. I was sure there were at least 5 horror movies that involved some hapless co-ed making a wrong turn, ending up in the morgue, and getting murdered by a psycho masquerading as a surgeon. No thanks. When it was my turn, I approached the woman working the desk. Hi, hello? I'm, looking for the way to room 407. She looked at me like she'd discovered a particularly stupid species of humanoid. Rolling her eyes, she gestured behind me. Take the elevator to the 4th floor, then follow the signs for the room you're looking for. I glanced over my shoulder at where she'd pointed and then back to her. Surely it couldn't be that easy. Weren't hospitals known for being labyrinths? She raised her eyebrows as if daring me to ask another question before saying, "Next!" Alrighty then. I moved toward the bank of elevators. When we reached the 4th floor, I stepped off and moved toward the signs the delightful woman downstairs had told me to find. I approached room 407 as one might approach a viper. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear voices from within. Hesitating, I listened to see if I could discern who was in there. Maybe it was a doctor discussing something that was none of my business, or a nurse giving him a sponge bath. Should I wait a bit and see if someone came out? Should I knock? Should I run away screaming? What was the correct protocol for barging in on the guy who'd broken my heart and then almost died? My existential crisis was interrupted by a girl. "Oh," she said. "Can I help you?" Her tone made it clear she had no desire to actually help me with anything. But then my gaze drifted beyond her and settled on the bed, in which lay a thinner and paler, but no less devastatingly attractive Drew. A noise left me of its own volition, some kind of cross between a gasp and a sob, and it got Drew's attention. He swiveled his head toward me. His eyes grew wide and his mouth dropped open. "Sophia!"
Drew. She was here. The one person I'd wanted to see the most, but had no right to ask to come, was here. And she looked beautiful. The best sight I'd seen in a while, that was for sure. "Andrew, are you going to introduce us, honey?" I'd been staring at Sophia, but my mom's voice broke the spell I'd been caught in. "Yeah," I croaked. "Sorry, Mom, this is my friend, Sophia." How big of a cop-out was that? Friend? She was simultaneously so much more and, sadly, so much less than that. "Sophia, this is my mom and sisters." I needed to get them out of here. They'd been suffocating me ever since I'd woken up, and while I'm sure they thought their presence was comforting, the truth was I couldn't relax around any of them. Sophia took a few steps into the room, but then stopped. "It's nice to meet you. I heard Drew was out of the ICU, and I wanted to see how he was doing, but I don't want to intrude, so—" "You're not," I quickly interjected. Sure, I would have yelled it had I been capable of such a thing. It's good to see you." She looked at me for a long moment. "You too." She sounded conflicted about whether she meant it or not. "Mom, could you give us a couple minutes?" I asked, without taking my eyes off Sophia. Oh, sure, I guess. Come along, girls. We'll go down to the cafeteria for a bite to eat. It was nice meeting you, Sophia. You too. Sophia responded as my mom and sisters filed past her and left the room. We stared at each other awkwardly for a few seconds before I broke the silence.